While it can be said about any subgenre of horror, there are much more bad werewolf movies than good ones. For some reason, the 80s were the high point for the lycanthrope on film, but occasionally a Ginger Snaps or a Were or a Howl or even a Late Phases comes along and reminds us that a great werewolf movie is possible. Viking Wolf just dropped this past weekend on Netflix. Let's see where it falls in the vast landscape between good and bad werewolf movies. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Viking Wolf, aka VIKINGULVEN, is directed by Stig Svendsen and written by Espen, Aukan, and Stig Svendsen. Liv Mahons plays Liv Berg, a sheriff who has moved with her family to a small town in Norway. Her rebellious daughter, Tala, played by Ellie Rhiannon Mueller Osborne, isn't thrilled to be the new girl in town, though she makes an attempt to hang with the rest of the kids on the edge of a nearby forest. When a giant wolf attacks the group, Tala is left wounded from a bite. Liv and the rest of the police try to track down the wolf, and once they do, they think the threat is over. But the murders continue, and Liv begins to believe she isn't dealing with a normal wolf, but a werewolf. Meanwhile, Tala is undergoing strange changes and a tendency to grow hairy and monstrous when the moon is full. There's been a rise in Norwegian horror recently, and I love that another corner of the world is giving light to their own particular fears, folklore, and superstitions. Films like Troll, Troll Hunter, The Innocents, Dead Snow 1 and 2, Lake of Death, Thelma, Tale, and the Cold Prey series, which shows up playing on a television in a scene in Viking Wolf, show that though the weather up north is frightful, that doesn't stop the country from churning out some quality horror gems. Viking Wolf is another one. While reminiscent mostly of the artsy Danish werewolf film When Animals Dream, with a bit of An American Werewolf in London, Ginger Snaps, and The Wolf of Snow Hollow tossed in, Viking Wolf is an atmospheric thriller that does the werewolf story well. I think it might feel a little slow in parts, especially since it plays like no one has ever made a werewolf movie before and isn't above using some scenes that we've seen in countless other werewolf films. There's the police hunt for what they think is a normal wolf. There's the attack in a crowded downtown street we've seen before in An American Werewolf in London. There's the transformation scene that is in all werewolf movies that really doesn't offer anything new in terms of how the transformation looks and what changes are shown. Maybe if this were your first werewolf movie, you might be dazzled by what you see here. But having dredged through tons of lycanthropy movies, I feel like there is an abundance of that been there, done that feeling going on. That said, what Viking Wolf does, it does well. The transformation scene, while nothing new, looks pretty good and occurs inside of a bus, so I guess that's something I haven't seen before. The wolf looks fantastic, and most of the time, though CGI, really works well in the frame with the other very real actors. I love it that this wolf is kind of matted and almost rabid looking, with blood clumps in its fur and an overall raggedy look. I also like the subtle animalistic tweaks that show up on Tala's face pre-transformation, giving her a cat-like look with different colored eyes. This is one good-looking werewolf, made ominous and quite scary with some wonderfully constructed scenes of suspense and carnage. While the version I watched was dubbed, the charisma of both Liv Mahons as Liv and Ellie Rhiannon Mueller Osborne as Tala is very strong. Both stand out in every scene they're in, offering up some very complex roles when things get hairy. Liv has to decide between the safety of her own and the life of her own daughter. Meanwhile, Tala's conflict is more primal, with a mix of teen angst as she just wants to fit in with her peers while undergoing this horrifying metamorphosis. Both Mahons and Osborne are likable, strong-willed presences throughout the entire film, making it easy to like them despite the language barrier. The wolf has been a local legend for over 1,000 years, as revealed in the opening sequence, stolen from a locked monastery by Viking pillagers. So apparently, the wolf has been roaming the forests for hundreds of years. This leads me to ask the question, why now? Why is the wolf attacking now? Why is it a big problem for this small town now if the wolf has been hunting in and haunting the woods for so long? The film never answers that question. Yes, there's this guy who conveniently explains the werewolf lore, but that small bit of reasoning for the reason of the current attacks is never really revealed. So there's a little good and a little meh in Viking Wolf. The atmosphere is rich, and I love the scenes of the police hunting the wolf through the thick forest. The acting is rock solid, especially by the leads, but while it offers up some very bloody violence and a good-looking monster, I feel it isn't really offering up anything new, pushing the werewolf subgenre forward. Not all werewolf movies have to do this, but the fact that I've seen a lot of the stuff going on in this film before keeps Viking Wolf from being truly great, and it ends up being just pretty good instead. There's a lot of bad werewolf movies out there. Viking Wolf is definitely not that, though.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that reality.